So how can you become a high-profile leasing specialist in your property market? Indeed, leasing is a special part of the industry. Leasing specialists add so much value to an investment property over time. And of course, they offer very special services to the investors of a town or a city. So in saying that, if leasing is for you, then there are things that you can do. And this particular video will help you understand those special parts of the market that will help you get more traction as that leasing specialist that you really want to be. So, number one, leasing opens up into many different things, and most particularly, leasing allows you to introduce property managements to a business and also sales opportunities over time. So I always say to the leasing specialists that I work with, be aware that where you start today in leasing will lead to other things in property management and in sales. Of course, in leasing, there are many different things to think about. I would expect a leasing specialist to understand lease optimization and how to improve lease optimization for the property, for the landlord, and for the location. Of course, that leasing specialist also needs to understand the lease terms and conditions that are typical for the property type, the tenant, and the landlord. Of course, finding new tenants is always a challenge, and that should be part of a leasing specialist's professional services. Also understanding rental growth and how to build rental growth into a lease over time. And there are different rental strategies around, of course. So those rental strategies will be relevant to gross and net rentals, face and effective rentals. Understand the different rental strategies and know how you can work with them. Tenant advocacy is one of those things that you can offer to the tenants and the businesses in your location. Of course, understanding a tenant mix in perhaps a retail property or an office property is quite important. Knowing where to put the tenants in the property itself and optimizing occupancy on the floor or in the location. What you do there is you cluster tenants into locations. That's what tenancy mix planning is all about. And of course, a direct offshoot of that is tenancy placement. Where should the tenant be in the property to attract customers? Of course, vacancy reduction is another part of the leasing part of the business. Finding out how to reduce vacancies over time for the investor, for the property, so that the investment improves over time. So all of these things are actually factors of leasing, and I would expect any specialist leasing broker or agent to provide these particular services. So let's go back a little bit here and let's look at one thing opening up into another. I did say that sales and property management will come out of leasing. Remember that, optimize it, use it. Because if you're a leasing specialist today, there's nothing wrong with selling the property in 1 or 2 years' time. So the property investors that you serve, they demand top quality agents. And of course, the agents have special skills or should have special skills. So what are those skills? Perhaps these: improvement of the asset, that is through rent and also tenancy placement, local property market information, that will be through case studies, recent transactions in sales and leasing, and also positioning the property against other competing buildings in the location. So top quality agents watch those three things for the clients that they serve and provide specialist services accordingly. So let's go back out here and let's have a look at tenant selection. When placing tenants in properties, there are different things to look at. Of course, will the tenant have ample equity to run their business in the location? That needs to be checked out. They will have some history of business and you need to review that. Also, will the tenant suit the customer demographics? Now that's quite important in retail properties. The customer demographic is a particular thing for the location. Will the tenant suit the demographics? And if it's in retail in a shopping centre, I would expect the tenant selection, that particular tenant to show some experience in retail within the offering that they're providing. And their offering should be of high quality in every respect. Now, each tenant should have a marketing strategy and they should be able to explain that to the leasing specialists that are considering leasing a property or a tenancy to that tenant. And will the tenant be of relevance to the particular property? It's a worthwhile question to consider. Also, in tenant selection, there will be various property issues to consider when you put a tenant into the property. What are the targets that should occur as a result of that tenant occupancy? What benefits will the tenant bring to the property over time? Perhaps more customers, perhaps a greater strength of lease tenure, perhaps some attraction to the investment, given that the tenant is such a prolific and maybe well-known tenant. Of course, tenant selection is also involving the tenancy mix. So when we take that further and we go into part 5 here, shopping centre performance is a special part of the leasing services that any agent should provide. So the different elements are a good balance of tenants in a property, a tenancy mix that is matched to the customers, stable and growing rentals over time. Now there are different types of rentals, that is gross, net, face and effective. Those rentals should be matched to the investment plans of the property owner and also the capabilities of the tenants. In any shopping centre there should be plans for renovation and expansion over time, so that becomes part of the tenancy placement plan as well. So you may need to move tenants to allow the renovation to occur in 2 or 3 or 5 years' time. Also in shopping centre performance there will be budgets relating to income and expenditure, and the community space in a shopping centre should be attractive to attract customers to the property. Now the tenancy mix should be aligned to the shopping centre performance. In other words, you don't just put any tenant in a property, you put the right tenants to bolster the property performance and its positioning over time. Now tenant involvement. I like to see the tenants involved in the asset so that they are improving the asset. They are involved in marketing their business within the asset, within the shopping centre. A successful shopping centre is actually a product of all tenants getting involved. It's interesting to note that many landlords struggle with the respect factor because they just push the tenants too far when it comes to rentals and maybe lease occupancy. However, a successful landlord is one that respects the tenants and encourages them to be successful in occupancy. That then flows through to the market rents for the property. Now, the partnership in a shopping centre is between the customers, the tenants and the landlord. It goes back to the previous point. The landlord should be respected. However, they should respect the tenants as well. That's where the partnership comes into it. Of course, a shopping centre should be well maintained, and there is a plan required to do that, and that plan should feature in the business plan for the property each year. Of course, look at shopping centre performance from an access perspective. That will involve public transport, it will involve car parking, customers, cars, perhaps people that walk to the shopping centre. If it's in the city, maybe it involves the facade and the fascia to the main street or the mall. And of course, in a shopping centre, there will be services and amenities to maintain to a reasonable quality to encourage customers to come back. And lastly, in shopping centre performance, there is a vacancy reduction strategy that should occur throughout the year. Do the transactions, do the lease deals to strengthen the tenancy mix, reduce the vacancies over time, and work early when it comes to a lease expiry. So they are the points relating to shopping centre performance. I go right back to the main point here. A high-profile leasing specialist should be able to handle all of these things. So my name is John Hyman, and thank you for listening to this particular video. It's all about leasing. I hope it's given you some ideas when it comes to leasing, optimisation and specialist services to provide to investors in your market. And indeed, if you would like to see the article at the website, you can check out the particular article here. The website, by the way, is commercial-realestate-training.com. This particular article is how to be a high-profile retail leasing specialist. You can check out the article and read through it. There's also another article here for you which I've put at the website, and it's all about reflections on being a successful leasing specialist, a career in commercial real estate leasing. And that particular article has a chart there for you to download, which relates to leasing. So there you go, a couple of articles at the website. My name is John Hyman. Thanks for listening to the program today. I'll catch you again very soon online.